I would say from a points perspective, I would say pretty much what went from something that was 40 points to something that was 5 or maybe 8 points, which is a significant amount of increase, momentum that you can build from your team perspective if you're building this capability in mind.
Hey everyone, Skulk and Gareth here from Intent Architect. Gareth, as always, is phoning in all the way from Amsterdam, and we're very excited to welcome you guys to another Intent Architect case study interview. And with us today, we have the CTO of Inoxico, Marius Vorster, joining us. Welcome, Marius. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Great. So just a bit of background on Marius. So Marius has been in the software industry now for more than 15 years as a software engineer, technical lead, and CTO. He's worked across various industries for different types of companies, from like fast-paced SMEs to software development houses to corporates like Brighthouse. But for the last 4 years, he's been the CTO of one of our customers, Inoxico. And Inoxico, very quickly, is one of these fast-growing SMEs. They're about 100 people based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and they build and maintain a variety of software service products for their customers across Africa, Europe, and a little bit of the United States. Yeah, so Marius, maybe for starters, and before I hand you over to Gareth, can you just give us a feel for the role that software plays at Inoxico?
For sure. So I think traditionally we come in from a space that a lot of people know us as a credit bureau. And if you think credit bureau, you don't always think about tech first. And I think this is where we are different from our competitors and other people in the market. We've always seen data and technology as a way for us to both set ourselves apart from a market, but as well as to help us, with our fast growing and being able to learn and adapt very quickly. So that's always been helpful for us for maintaining a kind of an edge in an environment that is not traditionally very tech driven. And it's been great for us. We've been growing in leaps and bounds in the type of customers that we had and the type of problems that we're solving. Starting off predominantly, I think, from a point that we were giving data for people to make decisions, to a point where we're now at a point where we're helping influencing decision-making at key points within the business that drives their profitability. So that's a very exciting journey to be at a point where our data and analytics and our technology that underpins this all is becoming very, very valuable in shaping the industry of tomorrow.
Awesome, Marius. Just wanted to say thanks again for joining us today. You and I have been, we've been working with Oxico for many years now. It's been an absolutely amazing journey. I know you guys are doing phenomenal stuff on the tech front, very, very innovative, very creative. And it's just been a really, really fantastic experience working with you guys and to see everything that you're doing. Maybe we can start off just by understanding a little bit about, on the technology front, what you guys are doing, what tech stack is, backing everything up, what are the patterns that you guys typically roll out, and, what the team looks like at the end of the day.
Sure. So we're a pretty tight team. We're about 6 or 7 software developers, tester, and then we have a data science group as well, which is about 4 or 5 people, as well as a small product management group as well. So from a technology department, that's pretty much all encompassing from there. From a tech stack perspective, we're predominantly also Microsoft based. We use DDD, rich domain pattern, for our kind of infrastructure architecture design. We are also moving everything from the cloud, although we've got here and there legacy systems that's not in the cloud, predominantly Azure based. Software as a service for our new services as well, moving all the way from kind of a product to a subscription based model for most of our customers. And the idea is really to get to a point where we're providing insights and information at the fingertips of our customers, with the least amount of friction and, the highest amount of value. Data is nice, but turning that data into insights, I think, is very powerful. So from a tech perspective, Visual Studio, typical, we use Intent Architect, our model-driven architecture side as well. We use microservices underpinned by the ESB middleware that we have that guarantees our synchronization and is quite instrumental as well with our communication outwards. These days, we tend to prefer using webhooks and, this inverse of control, making sure that we're in control, when sending out certain things. So from a microservice perspective, we use the ESB as our underpinning middleware. This is quite helpful for us as well for managing external integrations using webhooks and guaranteed delivery. So all in all, very asynchronous, message driven. We do have event sourcing as well within our master data service, which is quite interesting. But for the rest of it, very cloud focused right now, software as a service. Most of our hardware, we don't almost have no hardware. It's all services within production, within Azure. So we use software, we use web apps. Well, we try to use virtualization as little as possible and just work with the native kind of Azure services, which allows us from a development team to focus on what we do, which is building software, not necessarily on infrastructure.
Amazing. Yeah. And, just to talk a little bit around, just to give people an idea of some of the problem spaces that you guys were facing along the journey that you've had, maybe we can talk a little bit around some of those problems and the strategic initiatives that you guys had. And especially before, intent architecture was introduced into the mix. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of those.
Even going back further to where I started with my career in Belgium, working on CMSs, there was this one part that really kind of got me wondering around how do we be productive as software developers, in the sense that if you have to custom develop everything that you do within our environment, then it becomes extremely expensive and only a elite few can kind of access that capability. So reusability and the ability to make sure that you have you provide solutions that is affordable and within specific markets has always been something that I was wondering about and toying with in most cases throughout my professional career. Being able to build very, very powerful, good, well-structured software applications was always a balance between what people can afford, the time that is available, and almost working from an MVP to an MVP to MVP, with very seldomly having the luxury to go back and rebuild and refactor systems into what they are truly capable of doing. So when I started with Intent with Inoxico, the exciting part for me was really looking at how we could have a system in which the model-driven architecture, where you start off with an MVP, but you address your technical debt in the learnings that you have by reinvesting into the patterns and the solution that then gets grow over time to become better and better. I will talk a little bit later more around the use case that we specifically had, but what is very exciting for me was the ability to use Intent to, first of all, understand the problem space and the design from the architecture perspective. With a visual indication, you can look at how your business models and everything gets driven. And it also allows you to have a very fine control around your code and your patterns in such a way that you could have people come up very quickly on board and start producing the same level of code, which usually you have to kind of embed using a community of practices and kind of long onboarding processes. People can very quickly be able to come up and start producing the same level of code than other people. So that was very exciting for me. The fact that that this model-driven architecture was very new was kind of scary for me in the beginning as well, because from our perspective, it was the only other company that I knew that was doing that at that point was Discovery, and even that was to a much lesser degree, I think, that was happening over here. So it was a kind of a big step of faith to see that whether it works or not. It's an amazing journey since. It's been able to see you approach software development in a way that you haven't done in the past. And from an architecture perspective, it gives you options where you didn't have in many cases. And I'm going to talk about it later on, but you have two options. The one option is around using low code, fast, quick mechanisms that has a low ceiling versus develop something custom that is powerful but slows down over time, and you've got lots of maintenance issues later on. And Intent has a way to kind of fit somewhere in the middle and allow you to start with something that you can scale later on, and you can mature it over time, which very much fits into the emergent design mechanisms and architecture that I like to apply as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's been also, being with you guys during that journey has been obviously fascinating, very interesting to see how you guys have applied it. Maybe you could just give us a feel for, where you guys have used Intent Architect in the different aspects of the software that you guys have been building.
Sure. So I think that the first place that we really had to make a decision whether we use a system, we build our own system, we use Intent, or we go a different route, was talking when we were looking at workflow solutions for large enterprises. So we had a couple of enterprise customers that had very specific onboarding processes which they wanted to automate, and they came to us to kind of overlay the risk vetting and part of the credit bureau side on top of that processes for a very strong governance process for the enterprise. Now, the big concern we had over there is working from a workflow system. There's a lot of systems, SK2, very big, powerful workflow systems that's out there. But we're very careful of saying that either going that or low code, being put in a position where we couldn't mold it towards the enterprise requirement. You know, coming from a past where we had to build lots of, you know, applications for customers. I know that, you know, it's seldomly what people think they want in the beginning that actually lands up in, you know, in the end in production. So I wanted to have something that's going to allow to give me flexibility to grow and morph it over time into something that really fits the customer's needs. And for the first time, I had something like Intent, which allows us to kind of build these systems and patterns in place, but it's not hand rolled. You know, we codify it within our system and our design systems, and from there on, we can build and improve it, you know, and that gave me the confidence to say, I'm going to try it this route. So we did do it. Our first round took quite a long time, pretty much 6 months to produce this entire new kind of workflow system for the large corporate. But the interesting part was as we started developing and work with it, I think the second one that we took out was about 2 or 3 months. And the last changes that we've made in the last workflow that I've created was actually in the course of 2 sprints, so about 4 weeks, we were able to produce 2 completely new workflow plus a main development on the other one. So I would say from a points perspective, I would say pretty much what went from something that was 40 points to something that was 5 or maybe 8 points, which is a significant amount of increase, you know, momentum that you can build from your team perspective if you're building this capability in mind. So this combination of what we're doing over there has actually enabled us to, rather than normal applications, the bigger it gets, the slower you start developing. We're seeing the opposite within this specific solution. It's a year and a half later, and we're building, once we know what we want to build over there, a sprint, 2 sprints, and we've got the first version that can be production, which, and with a lot of confidence, you know, because why? There's a lot of reusability, there's a lot of codification within our system that allows us to know that if I use this on the other side, it's not like I'm copy and pasting and I need to hope that things don't crash and, you know, you've got all kind of conflicts. The pattern is duplicated, and that is very powerful.
Marius, just want to say thanks so much for joining us today. This has been an awesome interview. It's great to get your take on this. And yeah, well, let's hopefully one day we can do it again soon.
Awesome. So
thanks
good seeing you guys again. Cheers. Bye-bye.